Happy Sunday morning, all you ultimate peeps. Hope you're warm or dry or sunny or whatever you want to be today. We got a nice sunny day in St. Petersburg, Florida. Very exciting. It's been kind of rainy a little bit all week and cloudy, so it's nice for the sun to pop out. That's why we're in Florida after all. I woke up this morning and I went back and I rewatched the ultimate event, Steve's speaking portion. If you haven't done that, I'd strongly encourage it. I was under the impression it wasn't going to be stored or recorded, so I'm ecstatic that it is. Personally, I plan to use that as a way to introduce and invite more people to the Ultimate Coach Facebook group. Hey, there's this cool thing. You can watch them with Steve, but you got to be part of the group. So there's a pro tip right there. I wanted to share what I heard Steve say and what that sparked in me. And there were some pretty interesting insights, right? I work with Steve. I fly every 2 weeks to Phoenix and get to spend 2 hours with him, and we talk about being as much as one can talk about being. And there were anecdotes or things that he said during his talk with the Ultimate Experience that part of my brain wanted to categorize as, oh, I've heard him say that before. I know that. But I didn't. I noticed that and I let go of the, I know that. I've heard it before. What's new here? What could I hear differently, right? And I did this, I think it was a week ago, right? The event was last week. And then I did it this morning again. What can I hear that's new? What can I hear at a different frequency? The theme, again, this is Townsend's view of last week. The theme of what Steve was sharing in the compressed time that he was able to share this is whatever you see is coming from you. Whatever you see is coming from you. Whatever is out there that you're saying is happening is actually being projected. These are not cameras, they're projectors. These aren't microphones as much as they're speakers. He said, it's your world. How do you want to create it? How are you creating it? And that's literal. That's not like, are you making the best of the situation? It's, do you see you're making the situation? You're creating the situation. And that's powerful. It's also disruptive. He used the context of how people perceive him, right? If you see Steve Hardison as arrogant, where's the arrogance? Well, it's in me projecting arrogance onto Steve Hardison. You're the one doing the thinking. Make me up, right? Versus just telling me how I'm being. It's your being creating me right now. That guy's smart. That guy's dumb. He's insightful. I knew that. Whatever. I watch a Steve Hardison video. I could create the 15 or 20 or 30 minutes he was on as, oh, I know what he's saying. I got it. Or there's going to be something new here. One of my favorite visits to Steve, I hadn't seen him in about a month, and we were text messaging, kind of getting prepared, confirming times, etc. Whoever joined, you get to hear a cool story. One of my favorite visits with Steve, I texted him and I said, can't wait to see you on Thursday. I'm committed to, this is our best session ever. We've been working together for about a year. I'm committed to this can be our best session ever. Flew out, had my time, had our time together, and we had a great session, right? You don't spend 2 hours with Steve Hardison, I don't care who you are, and you're not like, that was pretty cool. That was interesting. That was fun, entertaining, insightful. But if I was filling out the comment card at the end of the 2 hours, and there was a little box that says, was this your best session? If so, tell us why. I wouldn't have checked that box. So that's interesting, right? I said it was going to be, and then at the end of it, well, it wasn't, at least as far as I know. So here's what I did. Got to the airport, I'm ready to fly home. Talking to Louisa, my wife. How was your session with Steve? She asks. Oh, it was our best session ever. Session's over. Wouldn't have checked the box. It was our best session ever. Really? What about it was great? Yeah, I'm not sure yet. It was our best session. I'm not sure why yet. It'll come. I'll know it when I'm supposed to know it. Was I committed to it was our best session, or was our best session and I know why it's our best session? So I can tell my wife and she knows it too. Or I'm going to stay in this space called it was my best session. I'm going to create that. As it so happened, the next day, I was doing a lot of driving. I flew back home. We were en route we were in Austin at the time. We were going to drive from Austin to Salt Lake City, where we were going to spend last summer. I had all day in the car, all day to sit with. That was my best session. Why was it my best session? What was there? I'm not sure why. I don't know why it was my best session, but I stayed in this space called it was our best session ever. Nothing. Went out to dinner. I was solo. Louise was flying out to visit her family. I'm just, me and Jax the Wonder Dog. We're in the car on our road trip. We spent the night in Albuquerque. Went to bed that night. 4:17 in the morning. It's like a lightning bolt, right? So our session was Thursday. This is early Saturday morning. So about 36 hours or so I sat with, that was our best session. I'm not sure why. I'm going to stay committed to the statement. I'm going to keep declaring that was my best session ever. 4:37, 4:17, I can't remember what it was. It's like a lightning bolt hit me. It was like all this information was showing up, was being downloaded or accessed or whatever. Holy shit. Got out some paper, was writing all the insights that I was given on Tuesday. Man, I never saw that before. That was right. Powerful, powerful, life-changing insights from my best session ever with Steve Hardison. It took until early Saturday morning for me to know why it was my best session ever. But I had to create that. I had to create reality, and reality took a little bit to catch up. So that's sort of piggybacking on, what Steve was talking about. Whatever's out there, I'm creating it. Whatever you see in the world is coming from you. And that's a really uncomfortable thought. Look at all the places you think it's not coming from you. Or, I don't want to say that's me. I'm not even going to put any words to this because I don't want to get anybody off track, but I really would encourage you, spend a day noticing all the places you have an opinion, a negative one, about what's going on out there. Who drives like, how do they drive? Who says, what they're saying on the TV. Not that the words coming out of their mouth, you're creating them, they're the ones speaking it, or they're the one driving the car, but they're wrong. They're a jerk. They're dumb. They're a bad driver. Well, we say that's the truth and point to the evidence. What Steve was sharing with us, there's no truth. There's only what you're putting out there because it's in here someplace. He talked about that idea of, the fruit of the seed of being. Doing is the fruit of the seed of being. Whatever I'm being, the doing will follow. And he gave some great examples. If what I'm doing is screaming at somebody, irate, judging them, well, what Steve was saying is that's your being producing that. It's not what they're doing that's real. It's your being that's producing that. I love all the people popping in and popping out. This is probably a lot for a Sunday morning. I hope people watch it later, or they don't. That's okay either way. Here's how I articulate that. If I am seeing it, I am being it. But only always. If I'm seeing it, I am being it, either in this moment or perhaps in my past. If I am seeing dishonesty, well, there's some part of my being that still judges myself as dishonest. Well, I'm not a dishonest person, you say. Okay, but you have been. I have been. I might have shared this story on a live, I might not. There was a situation probably 6 months ago at this point. I got a email from this outfit that we rented a short-term apartment from in Salt Lake City. And the email said, hey, we're charging your credit card $3,000 because of the damage you did to the apartment. I lost it. I was not peaceful, purposeful Zen Townsend. I was like fuming and freaked out and stressed out. I'm just sitting in my apartment. Everything's fine. There's no war going on. There's no, somebody's coming to kill me, but I'm like, I'm under attack. Just a little email saying we're charging your credit card. If I'm seeing it, I'm being it. Okay, if I'm seeing this frustration and what am I seeing there that I would have to be being? Where I got to was, I'm seeing they're stealing from me. They're thieves. They're dishonest, unscrupulous, etc., etc. That's what I'm seeing. Well, that would mean I'm being that or have been that. Well, I'm not a thief. I'm honest. I would never do that to people. Yeah, but let's go back a little bit, Townsend. Let's go back in our life. I've stolen. There was a Mexican restaurant I used to work at. Hey, if I need $20 at the end of the night, take it from the drawer. There's a bike shop. I worked in a couple bike shops. If I needed some parts, well, maybe they were in my bag on the way home. Had a good reason for it, but I was a thief. The only reason that's going to bother me, and I'm going to say, you're a thief, you're stealing from me, is if I still maintain or retain unresolved judgment of myself as that thief. If I'm seeing it, I'm being it in this moment or someplace in my past. If I can resolve my being it, I no longer see it. It just becomes something to deal with. As soon as I saw in myself how I was being a thief, forgave myself for judging myself, creating myself as a thief, well, now this is just some company that's got the information wrong. I make a call, we have a conversation, we work through it, I reverse the charges on my credit card, I go about my day. No problemo. But if I'm like, well, there's something here creating that. If I'm seeing it, I'm being it. And the opposite is true. If I ain't seeing it, I ain't being it. There's no honesty in the world. Really. What would what I just said tell you about that? If there's no honesty in the world, maybe I'm not creating enough of it in here. Isn't that a disruptive? Well, but I am honest. Nobody else is. Okay, but we still get this idea. You guys hopefully have read the book, The Ultimate Coach. You're either drinking the Kool-Aid or you're not. And the game is, where do I hear it and quote unquote believe it, but then, that's an exception. Where are the exceptions? What is it that you see in the world that it would be painful, disruptive, or worse for you to actually go looking for inside of you? Ooh. It's all I do all day. Where do I see something out there that I think is out there? Thank you very much. It's like a mirror. I'll go looking for where it is in here. And again. I'm not saying believe me. I'm saying it's a game you play, right? I continually run into situations where I'm convinced it's out there. I shared an anecdote about a couple of weeks ago. I was convinced my wife was mad at me all day about, me not being a good husband and stuff. Well, what I saw was the insecurity in here that was creating that. Once I saw that, well, she wasn't mad at me anymore. Everything was fine. If I am seeing it, I must be being it. If I ain't seeing it, if it's not there, if nobody's this, nobody's that, nobody's honest, nobody's kind, nobody does any good, well, what I see is where I'm not being that. Right? You don't plant a banana seed and get a grapefruit tree. Right? Steve beautifully talked about that analogy. last thing I want to kind of talk about is people sort of get this, and often they're willing to explore and play this game called, well, where am I being that such that I'm seeing it? Or am I not being it such that I'm seeing it? And then they go look and they find. But the question comes up a lot. Well, so how do we be it then? This thing, who would you need to be? Okay, thanks for the question. Who would you need to be for that to happen? I got it. I got the question, but I don't know how to be that. Well, it's really simple. And I'll use an analogy, an example, right? This idea of shifting your being is painfully simple. And we'll use something that we all have, and it's called a name. Who would I need to be to see more love in the world? Well, I need to be more loving. Well, how to be more loving? I don't know. That sounds complicated. It's not. Who would you need to be to have a different name? Now, some people would say, well, you got to go and file some papers. That ain't going to do shit. People know your name. You would have to be someone who says, actually, my name is. Right? The pronoun thing. I love this. Right? Regardless of how you feel if people should or shouldn't, somebody says, I'm a they, not a she. What are they? They're a they. Somebody says they're a grilled cheese sandwich. I'll address you as your grilled cheese sandwichness. If they insist, if they create it enough. Somebody says, well, I'm a they, but then they let everybody call them a she, and they don't keep saying, no, I'm a they. Well, then you're going to be a she, because that's what's created. A lot of people don't know this. Some people would know this if they've known me for a long time. My name has been Townsend my whole life. Townsend Howard Wardlaw. That was my given name. My mom thoughtfully did not enroll me in elementary school or kindergarten as Townsend. She enrolled me as Todd. So everybody knew me as Todd. Didn't matter what was on my birth certificate. Didn't matter what was on my passport or my social security card. That's Todd. Later in life, actually had gotten into sales. That's a funny story in itself, but I was in sales, and the name Todd just didn't sound right on the phone, and people thought it was Tom or Ted. So I got this idea, well, I'll go back to Townsend, at least professionally. So I started calling myself Townsend. Had Townsend printed on the business cards. I'd introduce myself as Townsend. I'm Townsend. Guess who I was? I'm Townsend. Now, some people who I grew up with still call me Todd. I could correct them if I wanted to. I could say, listen, it's Townsend now. Please call me Townsend. I don't. It's not that important to me. I know who I am. I'm Townsend. Somebody else wants to call me dude or buddy or townie or whatever. They can call me that. I allow that, but I don't have to, because I'm not confused about who I am. So this idea of who would you need to be, how do you shift your being, people get all verklempt about it. It's simple. Something you see, that means you're being it. You want to see something different, you're going to need to be something different. Well, how are you going to be something different? It ain't rocket science. Say you're something different. And Steve talks about this. He always says, I love you. He always writes, loving you. Therefore, his being is loving. It's not like he's a loving being who then happens to say, I love you. At some point, they're all intertwined, but he rightly has the idea, if I tell people I am loving, and I love them, and loving you, SFB, well, then his being will be more loving, right? Being creates doing, but the doing can also shift the being. That's something that's maybe a little more obscure, right? My name creates who I am in the world. At the same time, I can create myself in the world, and that'll shift my name. I'm not sure if that analogy makes sense or they're similar, but it made sense in my mind before I said it. How do you want to be different? How can you be different? Declare yourself different. And I'm not like telling other people. You got to tell yourself, right? It's nice to tell other people, hey, I'm a really loving guy. But the whole thing about a declaration is, I ain't talking to anybody but me. I am loving. I am that no one is deserving of my judgment. Everyone is worthy of my love. I am that every human is beautiful. This is part of my declaration. I am that life is effortless and fun. That is what I create. Oh, and hi, I am Townsend. Same thing. Except I am Townsend, I tell somebody else. I am loving, I tell myself. That shifts my being, and then I do loving things. So I encourage you to go back and watch the last, whatever it is, 20, 30 minutes of the ultimate experience. How amazing and wonderful that is, that it's there for us to enjoy and savor and go back to. Heck, if you were there, you should watch it 5 more times. If you weren't there, you could watch it 20. You could watch Steve talk 20 times, the same speech recorded. You wouldn't get the same thing. You'd get new stuff if you were creating it that way. Oh, I got to watch it again. Or I'm watching it again. I'm going to hear something new. Like the story I told you earlier. I'm going to see Steve. This will be the best session we ever had. Even if I'm not sure why. See, this works in the future. It also works in the past. That's a story for another day. Have an amazing Sunday, y'all.